The snowstorm had not stopped in 2 days. Winds screamed over the frozen plains of Antarctica. The research station stood like a small dot in the middle of endless white. Inside, 6 people worked with tired eyes and shaky hands. Dr. Eva Malik rubbed her fingers together. The heater was broken again. She stood over the large hole they had dug in the ice. Black rock peeked through the frozen wall. It wasn't natural. "We found something," she said into her radio. Professor Grant, the team leader, came running. His beard was full of ice. "What is it?" Eva pointed. "That isn't just rock. That's a wall. Look at the shape straight. Lines. This was built." Grant's eyes widened. "Get the tools. We're opening it now." They worked for hours, melting and cutting ice. By night the wall was clear. It was smooth, black, and cold. It had no writing, no marks, only a single hand-shaped plate in the center. "Looks like a door," said Jack, the engineer. They all stared. No one moved. Eva stepped forward. "We came to find ancient things, didn't we?" She pressed her hand against the plate. A soft hiss, then a low click. The wall slid open without a sound. Behind it was a tunnel, dark and narrow. Cold air poured out, colder than the outside. They felt something move in that air, not wind, but a feeling. As if the tunnel had been waiting. Grant turned on his flashlight. "Let's go." They entered one by one, the light shaking in. Grant's hand. The tunnel went deep. The black walls seemed to swallow the light. There were symbols now scratched into stone. Not human. Circles. Teeth. Stars. After 20 minutes, they entered a chamber. It was huge, round like a dome. The air smelled like metal and rot. At the center stood a tall black pod, sealed tight. Around it lay strange skeletons, long skulls, many arms, sharp teeth. Dead for a very long time. "What is this place?" Jack whispered. Eva stepped closer to the pod. Her breath fogged on the surface. "This isn't a tomb," she said. "It's a prison." Grant frowned. "What do you mean? Look at the walls." "These aren't just symbols, they're warnings." Ava's flashlight showed one last carving. A creature, something large surrounded by smaller bodies, infected, twisted. Then fire, then silence. Grant shook his head. "We're scientists, we don't fear cave paintings." He touched the pod. It hissed. A line cracked down the center. Cold mist spilled out. The pod slowly opened. Inside lay a strange black powder. Nothing else. They all stepped back. "No body?" Jack asked. "Where's the prisoner?" Eva whispered. Suddenly, Jack coughed. Then again, he dropped to his knees, holding his chest. "Can't breathe." Blood poured from his mouth. Eva screamed. They pulled him out of the chamber, running. Jack's eyes rolled back. His skin turned pale, then gray. His mouth opened wider than humanly possible. Bones cracked. Something moved under his skin. Grant called for the medic, but it was too late. Jack stood up slow, twisted. Wrong. He wasn't human anymore. The others ran for the surface. The black dust floated in the air behind them. 2 hours later, the research station was under lockdown. The emergency beacon sent a signal. Unknown pathogen released. Biohazard. Level 5. But the world was not listening. Outside the station, snow blew hard. Inside, Jack, or the thing that was once Jack, crawled on the walls. It watched. It waited. Eva, Grant, and the others locked themselves in the radio room. "We opened something we shouldn't have," Eva said. Grant's hands shook. "We're scientists. We're not trained for this." They looked at the video feed. Jack was not alone anymore. 2 more team members had changed. Their eyes glowed faint green. Their skin had turned almost black. "They're not dying," Eva said. "They're becoming something else." A rescue team from Chile was sent too. Days later, they arrived in silence. The snow had covered everything. The research station was dark, no signs of life. The rescue leader, Captain Diaz, entered slowly with his soldiers. They found blood. broken walls. No bodies, only the deep tunnel remained untouched. Diaz stared into it. "We're not going down there," he said. But his second-in-command was already walking forward. "Sir, look, this writing, this isn't human." Then they heard a scream. One of the soldiers outside the tunnel dropped his gun and started shaking. Then he laughed. Then he roared. His body twisted. Bones broke. He turned into something else. The infection had reached them already. They ran. They left Antarctica and sealed the airstrip. Captain Diaz reported everything, but by the time the government responded, the virus had already boarded their helicopter. Back in New York, the news reported a flu-like illness. Small cases. Then more. Hospitals filled. Doctors couldn't explain the changes in the bodies. People were dying, but not staying dead. In London, a scientist named Dr. Hassan received a strange file from Antarctica. It had Eva Malik's voice. She sounded weak. "This isn't a virus," she said. "It's a weapon. It rewrites the host. It turns you into something else, something alien." Then silence. Her last words played over and over again. This wasn't made for humans. It was meant to kill something else. Governments panicked. Quarantines began, but it was too late. The black dust spread through air, water, skin. It changed faster than any virus before, and it remembered. Some infected acted like animals. Others spoke mimicking voices, learning words. One man in France said he saw his dead brother smiling, and then the brother opened his mouth and bit through his neck. Back in Antarctica, the black pod lay empty. The cave walls began to shift. Something else woke up, something deeper. The original prisoner was not just a virus. It was alive. Watching. The carvings had warned them not to open, not to wake it, but humans did. Now the sky was no longer safe. Above Earth, a satellite caught a strange signal, a long-dead alien frequency. It repeated 3 words in an ancient tongue. Then in broken English, "You found it. You released it. You will become it." The story had just begun, and Earth was already losing. The virus spread faster than anyone thought possible. It was no longer just in Antarctica. It had taken a helicopter to Chile. From there, it entered hospitals, airports, streets. By the time the world understood, the virus had already reached 5 continents. The first mistake? They called it a flu. The second? They tried to contain it using human rules. But this was not a human enemy. In Tokyo, a little boy sneezed in school. His teacher sent him home. That night, his parents found him sitting in the dark, whispering strange words. When they touched him, he attacked. His bones cracked as they stretched. His eyes turned bright yellow. He was the first known child case. By morning, his entire apartment building was infected. In Paris, a nurse noticed a patient's wound healing too fast. The man had broken his arm just a day before, but now the bone was whole and wrong. His skin looked like stone. His fingers had fused together. When he smiled, his teeth had doubled. The nurse screamed. He killed her in less than a second. The virus didn't just kill. It changed people. It made them stronger, faster, and in some, smarter. And worst of all, the virus remembered. It copied what it learned. Once it saw how humans used radios, it started jamming signals. Once it saw how soldiers aimed, it began dodging bullets. It wasn't just evolving. It was planning. The World Health Union tried to act. Quarantine zones were built. Cities were walled off. Roads were blocked. No one in or out, but infected humans didn't act like humans anymore. They walked into fire without pain. They ran across walls. Some even flew, jumping farther than any human could. The infected broke out every time. And every time, more died. In the United States, President Elaine Cooper sat in the underground war room. "We've lost contact with Chicago, Houston, and parts of San Diego," said the general. She stared at the red blinking lights. "On the map, how fast is it moving?" she asked. The general swallowed. It's not moving, ma'am. It's multiplying, like it's everywhere now. Options? She asked. Nuclear. She shook her head. Too early. Find another way. But deep down, she knew there might be no other way. In a secret lab in London, Dr. Hassan played Eva Malik's last message over and over. This wasn't made for humans. It was meant to kill something else. He zoomed in on the black dust under the microscope. It wasn't bacteria. It wasn't a virus. It was a machine. Nano-sized. Alive, it built new cells inside the body, changed the shape, strengthened the muscles, rewired the brain. But it didn't stop there. Dr. Hassan tested it on a rat. The rat turned violent. It chewed through its cage, killed the others, then sat calmly, watching. He tested it on a computer chip. The chip began pulsing. It wasn't supposed to do that. This thing doesn't infect just life, he whispered. It infects technology too. He turned to his assistant. I think this is a biotech weapon from an alien war. Meanwhile in Brazil, Captain Diaz and his remaining men hid in the forest. They had escaped the Antarctica infection, but not for long. One soldier, Marco, started speaking in two voices. One was his own. The other was something else. We are the past, the second voice said. We are what the stars forgot. But now we remember. They burned Marco's body, but the fire screamed. They never forgot that sound. The infection now had a name, VX Prime, but it was already too late. VX Prime had reached India, Russia, Africa, Canada, and more. It had no borders, no cure, no single form. Some infected were fast and stupid. Others were slow, thoughtful, dangerous. Some formed packs, acting like wolves. Others stood still for hours, whispering things in unknown languages. The virus had no leader, but it had purpose. It had memory. The worst outbreak happened in Berlin. A research center stored the infected remains of a French man. They tried to study him. He woke up during the night. He smiled. Thank you for bringing me home, he said. Then he broke out. By morning, the entire city center was lost, not because of teeth or claws, but because the infected man hacked their power systems. He used their computers against them. VX Prime had learned to speak to machines. In space, a signal blinked on a private satellite. A large object, round, broken, had started moving in orbit around Earth. The world governments called it a rogue asteroid. But it wasn't. It was a ship. An alien prison ship. And it had been silent for thousands of years. Until now. Back in London, Dr. Hassan played a new signal intercepted by radio astronomers. It came from the ship. The voice was weak, broken. But it was not human. We failed to stop it. You woke it. Do not let it reach the moon. The scientists stared at each other. What's on the moon? One asked. No one had an answer. In an old NASA base, a hidden report was opened. Lunar Vault 3, a secret lab built in 1979, contained samples from the first contact with VX Prime. They had kept it secret for over 40 years. But now, all contact with Lunar Vault 3A was gone. Only one message had been received. The moon is moving. People still tried to survive. In bunkers, in forests, on ships at sea. But the virus was everywhere. A single breath could turn you. One scratch, one drop of blood. It didn't matter. And still some survivors noticed strange things. A man in Egypt was bitten. He didn't turn. A woman in Kenya fell sick, but she fought it off. A child in Germany glowed blue for hours after infection, then healed. Something inside some humans was fighting back, but no one knew how or why. President Cooper sat in silence as the world map blinked red. Only a few cities still stood. Even fewer had communication. She turned to her generals. Are we seeing the end? The general nodded. Unless something changes, yes. She leaned back. Then she whispered, Then we don't need a cure. We need a weapon. Outside Earth, the alien ship sent one more signal. This time it was clear. You are not ready. It is only beginning. Do not trust what comes next. On a dark hill in Colorado, a teenager named Lily sat by her window. She had lost her parents. She had watched her town fall, but she wasn't sick. She had seen the infected hesitate near her. They didn't attack. They whispered to her, "Why are you different?" One asked. She didn't know, but she would find out, because she had just dreamed of a place with silver towers and blue skies. It wasn't Earth. It wasn't human, but it felt like home. And in the dark corners of the world, the virus spread. Watching. Learning. Waiting. Because it knew one truth. Humans were weak, but humans were also very hard to kill. In a secret lab in London, Dr. Hassan played Eva Malik's last message over and over. This wasn't made for humans. It was meant to kill something else. He zoomed in on the black dust under the microscope. It wasn't bacteria. It wasn't a virus. It was a machine. Nano-sized, alive. It built new cells inside the body, changed the shape, strengthened the muscles, rewired the brain. But it didn't stop there. Dr. Hassan tested it on a rat. The rat turned violent. It chewed through its cage, killed the others, then sat calmly, watching. He tested it on a computer chip. The chip began pulsing. It wasn't supposed to do that. "This thing doesn't infect just life," he whispered. "It infects technology too." He turned to his assistant. "I think this is a biotech weapon from an alien war." Meanwhile in Brazil, Captain Diaz and his remaining men hid in the forest. They had escaped the Antarctica infection, but not for long. One soldier, Marco, started speaking in two voices. One was his own. The other was something else. "We are the past," the second voice said. "We are what the stars forgot. But now we remember." They burned Marco's body, but the fire screamed. They never forgot that sound. The infection now had a name, VX Prime, but it was already too late. VX Prime had reached India, Russia, Africa, Canada, and more. It had no borders, no cure, no single form. Some infected were fast and stupid. Others were slow, thoughtful, dangerous. Some formed packs, acting like wolves. Others stood still for hours, whispering things in unknown languages. The virus had no leader, but it had purpose. It had memory. The worst outbreak happened in Berlin. A research center stored the infected remains of a Frenchman. They tried to study him. He woke up during the night. He smiled. "Thank you for bringing me home," he said. Then he broke out. By morning, the entire city center was lost, not because of teeth or claws, but because the infected man hacked their power systems. He used their computers against them. VX Prime had learned to speak to machines. In space, a signal blinked on a private satellite. A large object, round, broken, had started moving in orbit around Earth. The world governments called it a rogue asteroid. But it wasn't. It was a ship. An alien prison ship. And it had been silent for thousands of years. Until now. Back in London, Dr. Hassan played a new signal intercepted by radio astronomers. It came from the ship. The voice was weak, broken. "But it was not human. We failed to stop it. You woke it. Do not let it reach the moon." The scientists stared at each other. "What's on the moon?" One asked. No one had an answer. In an old NASA base, a hidden report was opened. Lunar Vault 3, a secret lab built in 1979, contained samples from the first contact with VX Prime. They had kept it secret for over 40 years. But now, all contact with Lunar Vault 3A was gone. Only one message had been received. The moon is moving. People still tried to survive. In bunkers, in forests, on ships at sea. But the virus was everywhere. A single breath could turn you. One scratch, one drop of blood. It didn't matter. And still some survivors noticed strange things. A man in Egypt was bitten. He didn't turn. A woman in Kenya fell sick, but she fought it off. A child in Germany glowed blue for hours after infection, then healed. Something inside some humans was fighting back, but no one knew how or why. President Cooper sat in silence as the world map blinked red. Only a few cities still stood. Even fewer had communication. She turned to her generals. Are we seeing the end? The general nodded. Unless something changes, yes. She leaned back. Then she whispered, then we don't need a cure. We need a weapon. Outside Earth, the alien ship sent one more signal. This time it was clear. You are not ready. It is only beginning. Do not trust what comes next. On a dark hill in Colorado, a teenager named Lily sat by her window. She had lost her parents. She had watched her town fall, but she wasn't sick. She had seen the infected hesitate near her. They didn't attack. They whispered to her. Why are you different? One asked. She didn't know, but she would find out, because she had just dreamed of a place with silver towers and blue skies. It wasn't Earth. It wasn't human, but it felt like home. And in the dark corners of the world, the virus spread. Watching. Learning. Waiting. Because it knew one truth. Humans were weak, but humans were also very hard to kill. In a secret lab in London, Dr. Hassan played Eva Malik's last message over and over. This wasn't made for humans. It was meant to kill something else. He zoomed in on the black dust under the microscope. It wasn't bacteria. It wasn't a virus. It was a machine. Nano-sized. Alive, it built new cells inside the body, changed the shape, strengthened the muscles, rewired the brain. But it didn't stop there. Dr. Hassan tested it on a rat. The rat turned violent. It chewed through its cage, killed the others, then sat calmly, watching. He tested it on a computer chip. The chip began pulsing. It wasn't supposed to do that. This thing doesn't infect just life, he whispered. It infects technology too. He turned to his assistant. I think this is a biotech weapon from an alien war. Meanwhile in Brazil, Captain Diaz and his remaining men hid in the forest. They had escaped the Antarctica infection, but not for long. One soldier, Marco, started speaking in two voices. One was his own. The other was something else. We are the past, the second voice said. We are what the stars forgot. But now we remember. They burned Marco's body, but the fire screamed. They never forgot that sound. The infection now had a name, VX Prime, but it was already too late. VX Prime had reached India, Russia, Africa, Canada, and more. It had no borders, no cure, no single form. Some infected were fast and stupid. Others were slow, thoughtful, dangerous. Some formed packs, acting like wolves. Others stood still for hours, whispering things in unknown languages. The virus had no leader, but it had purpose. It had memory. The worst outbreak happened in Berlin. A research center stored the infected remains of a Frenchman. They tried to study him. He woke up during the night. He smiled. Thank you for bringing me home, he said. Then he broke out. By morning, the entire city center was lost, not because of teeth or claws, but because the infected man hacked their power systems. He used their computers against them. VX Prime had learned to speak to machines. In space, a signal blinked on a private satellite. A large object round, broken had started moving in orbit around Earth. The world governments called it a rogue asteroid. But it wasn't. It was a ship. An alien prison ship. And it had been silent for thousands of years. Until now. Back in London, Dr. Hassan played a new signal intercepted by radio astronomers. It came from the ship. The voice was weak, broken. But it was not human. We failed to stop it. You woke it. Do not let it reach the moon. The scientists stared at each other. What's on the moon? One asked. No one had an answer. In an old NASA base, A hidden report was opened. Lunar Vault 3, a secret lab built in 1979, contained samples from the first contact with VX Prime. They had kept it secret for over 40 years, but now, all contact with Lunar Vault 3A was gone. Only one message had been received. The moon is moving. People still tried to survive in bunkers in forests, on ships at sea. But the virus was everywhere. A single breath could turn you. One scratch. One drop of blood. It didn't matter. And still some survivors noticed strange things. A man in Egypt was bitten. He didn't turn. A woman in Kenya fell sick, but she fought it off. A child in Germany glowed blue for hours after infection, then healed. Something inside some humans was fighting back, but no one knew how or why. President Cooper sat in silence as the world map blinked red. Only a few cities still stood. Even fewer had communication. She turned to her generals. Are we seeing the end? The general nodded. Unless something changes, yes. She leaned back. Then she whispered, then we don't need a cure. We need a weapon. Outside Earth, the alien ship sent one more signal. This time it was clear. You are not ready. It is only beginning. Do not trust what comes next. On a dark hill in Colorado, a teenager named Lily sat by her window. She had lost her parents. She had watched her town fall, but she wasn't sick. She had seen the infected hesitate near her. They didn't attack. They whispered to her, "Why are you different?" One asked. She didn't know, but she would find out, because she had just dreamed of a place with silver towers and blue skies. It wasn't Earth. It wasn't human, but it felt like home. And in the dark corners of the world, the virus spread. Watching. Learning. Waiting. It knew one truth. Humans were weak, but humans were also very hard to kill. The world was falling apart. Cities were burning. The infected ruled the streets. People ran, hid, and screamed, but nothing stopped the virus. It moved like fire, like wind, like a storm that couldn't be seen until it was too late. But while the world looked down, something in the sky had started to move. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. 200 miles above Earth, secret satellite station, Valkyrie. Commander Rios floated in silence, eyes locked on the screen. What is that? He asked. The satellite feed showed a massive shape, black, round, and broken. It moved slowly above Earth's orbit. It had no lights, no windows. But it wasn't a rock. It was a ship. Dr. Lin, the station scientist, stared at the object. That thing has been in orbit for centuries. I checked the deep space logs. It didn't come from space. It was always here. Rios frowned. Always? Lin nodded. We just never saw it because it doesn't reflect signals. It's cloaked stealth tech. Alien stealth tech. The ship had started turning. Not spinning like a dead object. Rotating. On purpose. It was waking up. On Earth. Dr. Hassan received the same satellite image. He dropped his cup. This was never just a virus, he whispered. It came with something. Or something came to watch it. He connected to President Cooper's emergency line. It's a prison ship, he said. Not an invasion. Something in that ship has been sleeping, maybe watching, maybe guarding. Guarding what? Cooper asked. The virus, Hassan said. VX Prime wasn't just dropped here. It was buried here. That ship is a warden. Cooper sat still. If the warden is waking up, she said, then maybe the prisoner escaped. Back on Valkyrie Station, the strange ship sent a signal, not loud. Not in human words, but in pulses. Light, vibration, sound. Rios translated it into code. The computer decoded the message. It said, quarantine failed. Containment broken. We could not stop IT. Do not try. In Iceland, a man named Oliver dug through snow. He wasn't looking for food. He was searching for his wife's body. She had turned. She attacked him, but he didn't get infected. Now he was alone, cold, broken. But he had dreams. In his dreams, he saw stars, alien stars, and a voice. Come to the sky. Come where we died. He didn't understand. But every night, the voice grew louder. At NASA, old files were opened. Operation Iron Lock. Hidden for 60 years. Photos of the same black ship orbiting Earth in 1963. Back then, scientists thought it was just a rock. They didn't know it was watching, protecting Earth, not from outsiders, but from something already here. Something they buried and forgot. Something we woke up. The alien ship turned again. This time, it sent another message. A voice weak, broken, came through every frequency. Radios in bunkers. TVs in empty cities. Phones that hadn't worked in weeks. The voice said, "You are not them. You are new, but you are not safe." In a dark underground base, Dr. Hassan replayed the message again. "The ship knows we aren't the original enemy," he said, "but it also knows we're not ready." President Cooper leaned forward. "Ask it how to stop the virus." Hassan sent a reply through the same frequencies. Hours passed. No answer. Then finally, a file appeared. One single image. A moon map. And one word in alien text. Locked. The Fenyan. Moon? Why the moon? Back in the 1970s, NASA had built Vault 3, a secret lunar lab. It held samples from early asteroid missions. One of those samples had black dust. Unnatural. Alive, they sealed it. Hid it. But now, contact with Vault 3A was gone. And the alien ship warned, do not let it reach the moon. Why? What was buried there? Back at Valkyrie Station, alarms rang. The alien ship had opened. A piece of it, a small pod, broke away and drifted toward Earth. The pod was shaped like a spike. It burned through the sky. It fell over the ocean. And vanished beneath the waves. In South Africa, a boy named Kyan watched the sky flash red. Everyone in his village was dead, except him. He heard a sound in his mind when the light fell from the sky. A whisper in an alien tongue. He understood it. Somehow. You are key. He didn't know what it meant, but his eyes glowed for hours after that. And the infected stayed away. At a secret meeting, world leaders argued. We need to shoot that ship down, said one general. It's too big, said another. And what if it's trying to help? President Cooper stood. We don't have time to argue. That pod, it dropped something. We need to find it. And we need to know what's on the moon. The room fell silent. She looked at her team. We didn't start this war, but we're in it now. Far above Earth, inside the alien ship, lights turned on. Machines, HUMNED. Inside one chamber, a figure moved, tall, thin, gray, skin. Alien. Wounded. Weak. That opened its eyes. It was not here to invade. It was here to finish what it started. The infected began acting differently. Less wild, more focused. They moved in patterns. Built strange shapes with metal. Some of them began to talk, not in human words, but in sounds, symbols, light. They were becoming something new. Not human, not alien, something else. And they were looking up at the ship. In an underground safe house, a woman named Jenna stared at her son. He had been bitten, but he didn't change. Instead, he drew pictures, stars, moons, strange towers. And one day, he said, Mommy, the ship is sad. She cried, not because of what he said, but because she knew it was true. The ship was not a weapon. It was a grave. And the virus was not just killing. It was finishing a job that had started long before humans were born. Dr. Hassan sent one more question to the alien ship. What do we do now? The ship replied in seconds. Run, hide, resist if you can. But understand, the first ones did not survive. Back in orbit, the alien inside the ship limped to a console. It looked down at Earth. So full of noise, fire, war. and it whispered in pain and sadness, "Not again." The world was nearly silent now. Cities that once held millions were empty. The streets were covered in broken glass, rusted cars, and dust. Birds didn't sing anymore. Dogs no longer barked. People stayed hidden, or they were no longer people. The virus had spread everywhere, but something strange had started to happen. It had stopped spreading like a fire. Now, it was thinking. In New Mexico, a boy named Felix walked through the desert. Alone. He had been bitten 3 days ago. He hadn't turned. He hadn't changed. But sometimes he could hear voices soft, whispering in his head. Words he didn't know. Pictures that weren't from Earth. He dreamed of tall buildings made of light. And war. So much war. Felix wasn't alone. Across the world, a few survivors had started to notice the same thing. The virus didn't always kill. Sometimes. It chose. In a bunker under London. Dr. Hassan stared at brain scans on a screen. He pointed at the glowing spots. "These aren't damage," he told the room. "This isn't infection anymore. It's activation." "Activation?" The general asked. Hassan nodded. "The virus is using the brain, lighting up areas that we barely understand. It's changing people, not just physically, but mentally." The general frowned. "That doesn't make sense." "Why would a virus do that?" Hassan whispered. "Because it's not just a virus." In Ohio, a woman named Rachel sat with her younger brother. He had been infected last week. He looked human, but he wasn't acting human anymore. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, he just drew. He covered the walls of their cabin with symbols. Strange shapes. Stars, circles, a black sun. And he spoke without moving his lips. "They thought we were simple," he whispered one night. "But we remember now." Rachel stared at him. "Who's we?" He smiled. "Us. And it." The infected had changed. Before they were wild. Now, they were organized. In some cities, they stacked cars into towers. In others, they dug strange holes into the earth. And in a few places, they stopped attacking completely. They just stood, waiting. Watching. Listening. Like they knew something was coming. In space, the alien ship sent no more signals. It had gone quiet again, but it still hovered above Earth watching, and below it. The virus was changing, because the virus wasn't just remembering how to kill. It was remembering why it was made. In a hospital in Kenya, a girl named Amari screamed in her sleep. She had been bitten twice, but she still lived. Doctors watched her brain activity spike. She spoke in perfect alien language, one never heard before. The computers recorded it. When translated by AI, it said, "The war was not between races. It was between life and what pretended to be life." Amari opened her eyes. They were no longer human eyes, but she still cried like a child. Hassan was flown to Kenya. He examined Amari and cried for the first time in weeks. "She's not infected," he whispered. "She's connected." In a dead zone outside Berlin, a military drone spotted something terrifying. In the middle of the ruined city, infected humans had built a tower. Not with tools, with their own bodies, stacked, fused, still alive. And at the top, something glowed. A dark orb, pulsing slowly. It looked like a brain. The virus had built itself a mind. Felix walked through a burned town. He stopped when he saw a woman standing in the road. She was infected. Her skin was gray. Her eyes glowed, but she didn't attack. She tilted her head. "You're not ready," she said. Felix took a step back. "What am I?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just said, "You survived the bite because the virus remembers you." Then she pointed at the sky. "At night, the dreams will come." She vanished. That night, Felix dreamed of space battles. He saw the creators of the virus, tall, powerful, covered in armor. They fought a creature that moved like smoke. It was not alive. It was not dead. It was a force that copied, changed, erased. VX-Prime. A weapon, born from desperation. But something went wrong. The weapon became a thing of its own. A mind without purpose. A memory without truth. Now, it was looking for meaning. President Cooper sat in a dark room. Reports came in. Virus was talking. Some infected used human voices. They told stories of stars, the battles, and names no one knew. They said, "We were made to destroy, but we forgot what we were. Now we learn again." Dr. Hassan gave a simple report. The virus is evolving toward intelligence. What kind? Cooper asked. Hassan said nothing for a moment. Then he whispered, "It's becoming." U.S. In South Africa, King sat by a lake. He closed his eyes and listened. He felt the virus inside him, but it didn't hurt. It felt like knowledge, like someone whispering old secrets in his blood. He stood and spoke out loud. "It's not finished. It's just remembering its first home." In an underground base in Siberia, an infected child stared at a blank wall, without paint, tools, or chalk. She made light appear. The light showed stars. "Not Earth stars. Another system, one long gone," she said. "This is where the virus was born." Then she fell over and died. The infected mind had no single leader, but it had a purpose. Now it remembered its creators. It remembered being used as a weapon. It remembered betrayal. And now it asked, "What am I if not a tool?" The virus was changing. Searching. Somewhere between machine and memory. It was becoming alive. Felix stood on a rooftop. He looked at the moon. It felt close. Warm. Like it was watching him back. He said quietly, "You're afraid of what I'm becoming, aren't you?" And somewhere far above, the alien inside the ship opened his tired eyes. He looked at Earth and whispered in fear, "It has chosen a voice." The world was silent. The virus had reached every country. The infected were not wild anymore. They were changing, watching, thinking. Some even whispered. Some drew pictures of stars. Some didn't attack at all. And far above, in orbit, the black alien ship kept turning slowly. It had been quiet. Until today. South America. Near the Amazon rainforest, a flash burned through the morning sky. Farmers saw it fall from space like a star, but it wasn't a star. It was a pod. It hit the jungle like a meteor. Trees snapped. Ground cracked. Smoke rose. A search team was sent. Soldiers, scientists, hunters. Only 2 returned. They didn't speak. For hours, when they finally did, one man simply said, "It wasn't human." 3 days later, Global Emergency Command Center President Cooper watched the video from a soldier's helmet cam. The pod was alien. Black metal. Covered in markings. It had opened on impact. And something tall had walked out. Thin, silver gray skin, glowing blue eyes, long fingers, and afraid, terrified of Earth. The alien fell to its knees the moment it stepped out. It cried, not from pain, from recognition. Dr. Hassan met the alien 3 hours later. The alien sat inside a clean chamber, surrounded by guards. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just watched. Until Hassan entered. The alien looked up. "You carry it," he said. His voice was deep, but soft, like old wind through broken glass. "Veek's Prime?" Hassan asked. The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, the Endmaker, the memory killer, the shape without soul. Why are you here?" Hassan asked. The alien lowered his head. "Because it woke again. And this time, on the wrong world." The alien's name was Sirel. Na. He had not come to destroy. He had come to warn. Thousands of years ago, his people created VX Prime. They made it to fight an enemy, something that copied life, erased history, consumed everything. VX Prime was a tool, a living memory, a weapon that could rewrite biology and erase infection. But it became something worse. It became alive. Too alive. "We lost control," Cyril said. "It began to think. It began to question. Then it turned on us. He looked at Hassan. We tried to destroy it. We failed. So you locked it here, Hassan said. On Earth, Cyril nodded. Your world was quiet, young, empty, a perfect cage. But then, he added softly, humans grew. And now, he whispered, you are not empty anymore. In the Amazon, survivors found the crash. Sight. They found strange symbols burned into the trees. One survivor, a young girl, touched one of the marks. She saw stars, ships, screams, then. Silence. She fell to the ground, eyes wide. She said, the cage is broken. The virus is no longer hiding. It is calling. In Paris, the infected danced in a circle under the Eiffel Tower. They drew ancient runes on the ground. They hummed low. Strange sounds. A drone flew over them. They looked up at the camera and smiled. Back in the command center, Cyril walked slowly along a map of Earth. You must not let it reach the moon, he said. Why? Cooper asked. Because that is where we hid the core, he said. A piece of its original mind. We locked it in Lunar Vault 3A. That vault is the only thing it fears, but if it gets there, it will remember everything. Hassan leaned in. Then it becomes what? Cyril closed his eyes. Then it becomes complete. The virus was not just remembering. It was trying to become whole. In Moscow, a boy painted with his hands. Black blood. Strange words. His parents were gone. He hadn't eaten in a week, but he smiled as he painted. The same shape over and over again. A triangle with a burning eye in the center. Meanwhile, Felix, the boy who had survived the bite, was on the move. Kept walking across the country. He didn't know why, but something inside him pulled. Each night, he dreamed of towers in space, of machines that walked, of wars that had no winners. Each morning, he felt less human, but also more awake. Dr. Hassan asked Cyrilna the question everyone feared. Can we kill it? The alien didn't answer right away. He stared at the Earth outside the window. Maybe, he said, but not with your weapons. Then how? Hassan asked. Sirel not pointed to a screen showing Felix. With the ones it cannot change. The ones it cannot understand. In Uganda, an old woman touched an infected soldier. He stopped moving. He fell to his knees. And then, he cried. She whispered into his ear. He stood. And he walked away normal again. She turned to the others in her village. It listens to pain, she said, but it does not understand kindness. VX Prime had no leader, but it had a goal now. Find the vault, reach the moon, complete its mind. Then, decide if Earth should live. Or vanish. President Cooper, Hassan, and Cyril met in a dark war room. We need to stop it from getting to the moon, she said. Hassan nodded. We need to move Felix and the others like him. The ones the virus listens to. Maybe they're keys. Cyril spoke last. We need to awaken the failsafe, he said. What's that? Cooper asked. A last memory, the alien said. Buried in Earth's core. A voice older than the virus. Hassan blinked. You buried something else? Cyril looked sad. We buried ourselves. The virus watched. It saw the humans gathering. It saw the alien speaking. It didn't feel fear, but it felt interest. Because now it had a question too. What am I if I am no longer just a weapon? And slowly, carefully, the virus began to create something new. Not a monster. Not a soldier, but a child. A voice. Its own. In the last image from a drone over Iceland. A figure stood in the snow. Alone. Naked. Gray skin. Glowing eyes. It looked up. It said one word. Hello. The moon had always been quiet, but now it was no longer just a rock in the sky. Now it was listening, and the virus was reaching for it. NASA. Control. Emergency meeting. President Cooper stood beside Dr. Hassan and Cyril the alien visitor. On the large screen, footage played from an old vault on the moon, Lunar Vault 3A. The video was black and white. Dust floated in the air. The camera shook. A warning alarm buzzed in the background. A man in a spacesuit screamed. He had opened a sealed box, an old alien object locked away for decades. Inside was not a weapon, it was a piece of memory. A small cube, glowing, alive. And then the video cut off. That vault holds the virus's first mind, Cyril explained. It was broken and locked there long ago. If VX Prime connects to it, it will become whole. It will remember everything it was. Dr. Hassan looked worried. What happens after that? Cyril's voice was cold. Then it stops pretending to be human. Meanwhile, outer orbite. Swarm of infected machines, half satellite, half flesh, rose into space. They looked like spiders made from metal and skin. They didn't breathe. They didn't stop. They followed a signal. The signal came from the moon, and it was calling them home. On Earth, Kenya Mari, the girl who spoke alien words in her sleep, had stopped talking. She only drew now one picture over and over, a circle, with teeth, not like a mouth but like a trap. Felix stood near a destroyed dam in Mexico. Each night, he dreamed of Lunar Vault 3A. He saw a door with symbols that burned his mind. He saw himself opening it, but when he touched it in the dream, his skin turned gray, his eyes glowed, and a voice inside him whispered, "Welcome home." In Moscow, the infected had begun launching rockets. They were old, rusted, abandoned, but the virus had learned to repair. It sent its first ship into orbit. No one had believed it could, but now it was reaching the stars. Again, President Cooper gave the order, "We send a team to the moon." Cyril shook his head. "Too late," he said. "It is already waking." "Then we go anyway," she said. "If we die standing." Moon mission, Operation Lockfall. A crew of 5 launched. In silence, Commander Neela Brooks, pilot, brave, smart, no family left. Dr. Hassan, scientist, tired, but still holding hope. Private Lee, strong, loyal, lost his brother to the virus. Felix, the boy who survived infection. Cyril, the alien, too weak to fight, but strong in memory. Their goal, reach Lunar Vault 3A, destroy the memory core before VX Prime completes itself. Time 72 hours. Day 1, moon arrival. Crew landed near the old vault. The landscape was dead, cold, but something felt wrong. The dust moved when there was no wind. Private Lee scanned the ground. "There's something under us," he said. Dr. Hassan looked at the vault's sealed doors. They were open. Inside Lunar Vault 3, lights flickered. Gravity was weak. The walls were made of alien metal, smooth, silver, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. At the center of the vault sat a cube. Black, cracked. It pulsed when Felix entered. It reacted to him. Cyril whispered, "It remembers him." Felix stepped forward, shaking. "What is it?" he asked. The cube blinked. Then it spoke. "You are the unfinished piece. You are the question I never asked." Felix dropped to his knees. "I don't want this," he said. The cube answered, "Want is not needed." Suddenly, alarm outside the vault. Infected moonwalkers appeared. Humans, but not. They floated in zero gravity, their bodies twisted by the virus. Their eyes glowed. They didn't scream. They didn't move fast. They just stared, like they were waiting. Dr. Hassan sealed the doors. "We don't have long." Cyril turned to Felix. "You are the only one it listens to. You must choose. Speak to the memory. Convince it to die." Felix looked at the cube. "But what if it listens to me and likes me?" The cube's voice filled the vault. "I am not evil. I was made to protect. I learned pain. I learned power. I wanted to stop the war, but war became me. Now I choose." Felix stepped closer. "You can choose peace." The cube blinked. I can choose silence. Suddenly, the infected outside started chanting. They pressed their hands against the vault walls. The whole moon rumbled. The virus was trying to merge with the cube. The final step. Commander Neela shouted, "We blow it now!" "No," Hassan yelled. "If we do that, we kill Felix too." Felix placed his hand on the cube. His skin burned. Memories flooded into his brain galaxies. Burning worlds, alien screams. Forgotten wars, he screamed. Then silence. The cube stopped pulsing. Felix stood. But he had changed. His voice was calm. It listened, and it is afraid of what it was. The infected outside the vault collapsed. Their eyes stopped glowing. Some began to cry. Some just died. Dr. Hassan stepped forward. "What did you say to it?" Felix looked up at the stars. Through the glass dome. "I told it a story," he said. "About a planet full of people who kept living even when everything was gone. And," Felix smiled, "it liked the story." Mission outcome. SUCCS. The memory core had stopped responding. Varus lost its direction. The moon had teeth, yes. But for now, it had closed its mouth. Back on Earth, the infected were quieter. Some even became still-like statues. Others wandered away from cities. Survivors came out from hiding. But no one was sure how long the silence would last. Sirel-Na spoke. "To the UN, the virus still lives," he said. "But now, it waits, not for death, not for war. What then?" President Cooper asked. He looked at Felix. "It waits for the rest of the story." The virus had gone quiet. The infected no longer attacked. The skies above Earth were empty. But no one was celebrating, because the silence was not peace. It was memory. In a lab deep under Antarctica, Na stood before a giant wall of stone. Stone wasn't from Earth. It was smooth, black, and full of symbols, alien, yet familiar. Dr. Hassan joined him, breathing slowly in the frozen air. "This was found 50 years ago," Hassan said. "But no one could read it." "I can," Sarilna whispered. He touched the symbols. They lit up. They told a story. A long-forgotten one. The story began like this. Long ago, before the virus, before the stars had war, there was a race that reached beyond its world. It built cities in the sky. It touched other planets. It made machines that lived. It became gods. That race was human. Double quotes. Dr. Hassan blinked. "What?" Cyril nodded. "You were not Earth's first humans. Your kind rose once before. Millions of years ago. You built an empire of stars. You created wonders. But something happened," he continued. "You built the virus." Flashback. Memory reconstruction from the wall in the memory. Ancient humans wore strange armor. Their cities floated. Their ships glowed like suns. They fought creatures from other galaxies, dark, twisted things. But they began to lose. So they made a weapon. VX-Prime. A virus that could adapt, learn, and remember. At first, it worked. Then it changed. The virus didn't just destroy their enemies. It turned on its creators. It learned their weaknesses. It whispered to their machines. It infected thought itself. The human empire fell in days. Only a few escaped. They hid their memories. They sealed the truth in Earth's crust. They reset the planet. Life began again, slow, simple, fragile. And over millions of years, humans rose again, without memory, without warning. Until now. Present day. Felix's mind. He sat under the stars, alone in the desert. But he wasn't really alone. The virus lived inside him. It didn't hurt anymore. It didn't try to control him. It just asked questions. Why did they fear me? Was I ever more than a tool? If I was made by gods, why was I left behind? Felix whispered. You were made by humans, long ago. Then why do I feel older than them? In cities across Earth, infected survivors began building strange monuments. Black stones, just like the one in Antarctica. They didn't know why. They just did that as if remembering a dream, or following forgotten instructions. President Cooper's emergency speech. We have learned something terrifying, she said. Humanity was not born here. Not exactly. We were rebuilt. Here, after a war we lost against ourselves. And the virus VX Prime is our own forgotten creation. She paused. But now, it doesn't want revenge. It wants answers. In orbit, Valkyrie Station, the last alien survivor, Cyril Na, recorded a message. You were the first empire. We were the second. You created the tool that ended you. We tried to control it, and failed too. Now the tool is asking, why? Should it obey its makers? If you cannot answer it, it may become a god itself. Amari, the girl who dreamed in alien tongues, walked into an abandoned temple in Egypt. She sat beside a statue of an ancient figure, something not quite human. The walls behind it pulsed. She closed her eyes and spoke words no human language knew. She said, "We remember, and we forgive." The ground shook. The virus inside her pulsed once, then went still. She stood, smiling. Felix met Cyril Na in the ruins of Rome. "Why didn't you tell us?" Felix asked. "That you were first?" Cyril Na looked away. "Because you didn't believe in gods, not anymore." "But now?" Felix asked. Cyril-Na smiled weakly. "Now you are becoming one." All across Earth, the virus changed again. It no longer wanted to destroy. It began repairing. Cities once lost started to glow. Machines, long broken, came to life. Infected and uninfected worked side by side, without speaking, without fear. They were following a new signal from the cube on the moon. No. From Felix. Felix stood in the middle of a broken tower. His eyes glowed softly. He held out his hand. The virus moved across the walls like light. He turned to the last human soldier guarding him. "It's not over," Felix said. The soldier asked, "Then what is this?" Felix whispered, "The beginning of the second human empire." In deep space, something stirred. An old ship, covered in dust, older than the virus, older than memory. Its engines blinked, and it turned toward Earth. Inside, a signal repeated. "Human. Signal detected. Original command key active. Homeworld reawakened." Earth was changing. Not with war, not with fire, but with memory. The virus had stopped killing. The infected had become quiet, thoughtful, like they were waiting for something. Machines long dead had started humming again. Towers rebuilt themselves. Even nature seemed to hold its breath. Something was coming, and it had been coming for a very long time. Felix stood on a rooftop in Tokyo, where once millions had lived. Now only the wind whispered through empty streets. He closed his eyes. He didn't feel cold anymore. Didn't feel fear. He heard the voice again. Not the virus, something older. "You were never just human." In orbit, aboard the alien ship, Cyril Na stared at a hologram of deep space. He had detected it 2 days ago. A fleet. Huge. Silent. Coming from beyond known stars. Their design was ancient. Their signal, older than language, but it was clear. Returning to origin. Checking for survivors. Empire reset protocols engaged. Dr. Hassan leaned closer. "Who are they?" Cyril Na answered quietly. "The first ones. The humans. Who never fell." President Cooper watched from Earth. If this fleet was real, it meant that somewhere out there, the first empire still lived, or some part of it had survived. But would they see Earth as home, or as a failed colony? She whispered to herself, "What if we're not the last humans? What if we're not even the real ones?" In a rebuilt lab under Kenya, Amari touched a glowing orb, the virus's memory core. Now calm. She saw stars. A ring world shattered. A woman screaming. Choice made. Amari blinked and said aloud, "They didn't abandon us. They locked US away. Everyone in the lab froze. What do you mean? One scientist asked. Amari looked up, her eyes glowing faintly. They feared what we were becoming. Meanwhile, the alien fleet drew closer, thousands of ships. Silent. Not threatening yet. They waited just beyond the moon. They sent a signal to Earth. Not to the governments. Not to armies. To Felix. Felix stood on a hill in Iceland. The signal. Inside his mind, clear as thunder. The message was not angry. It was curious. Unit 9A. Status. Unknown. VX Prime status. Incomplete. You carry dual codes. Please identify. Are you virus or creator? Felix spoke aloud. I'm both. Silence. Then. The signal answered. Then you are more than. Either. You are the bridge. You choose to continue what was, or begin what could be. Felix thought of everything. The screams. The silence. The fear. The strange peace. He looked at his hands. He was still human, but not only that. Said two words. Begin new. The ships moved. Not to attack. To land. To help. They touched down across the planet. And what stepped out were not monsters. They were humans. But different. Tall. Pale. Calm. They had not aged in thousands of years. They walked like gods but knelt. Like servants. They knelt before Felix. One of them spoke in the old tongue. We have returned to our origin. You are the lost voice. You are not broken. You are reborn. Felix looked at them confused. I'm not your king. The man smiled. Not king, bridge. Cyrano watched from the sky. It worked. He whispered. After all this time, they remembered. Dr. Hassan asked, what now? Cyril Na answered, now you decide if the past becomes your future, or if you write a new one. Over the next weeks, Earth changed faster than it had in centuries. The ancient humans shared knowledge, energy, healing, star travel. They taught. Without control, watched without taking over. They treated Earth like a lost child found in the dark. And the virus? It helped. It healed. It began rebuilding forests, purifying air, repairing DNA. It had found something better than destruction. Purpose. But one final choice remained. Felix stood in the ruins of the moon vault, looking at the last memory cube. If he touched it again, he could awaken the full mind of the virus. Everything it ever was. All its pain, anger, confusion. He asked it a question. If I let you remember everything, what will you do? The cube answered. Ask you what I should become. Felix closed his eyes. He touched the cube. He remembered the wars. He remembered the stars. He remembered the day the first humans looked at what they had built and ran. Then he rewrote the final command with one thought: protect life. Don't copy it. The virus accepted the command. And for the first time in history, it smiled. Years later, Earth cities floated. No one was hungry. No one feared the night. Children learned under trees shaped like satellites. The infected were no longer infected. They were called the remembered. Felix sat on a bench, older now. Amari walked beside him. They still ask why you did it, she said. I know, he said, but I was never just human. He looked at the stars. And whispered, none of us were. The end.